So good day everyone. Happy to have you all again here. This is the fourth video of the no code AI course for teachers. Welcome again. This video is going to be kind of special because we have a very special guest among with us. We have Dr. Chiranjiv Roy, who's a PhD in data science and computer science. He is one of the top 10 data scientists in India. He is an ex-employee of companies like Nissan, Mercedes, etc. And he is currently holding the position of Head of Data Analytics in SG Analytics. And he is also an official member of the Forbes Technology Council. And he advises and mentors a lot of startups across the startup spectrum as such. And Chiranjiv, we welcome you to this wonderful training program because this has a lot of relevance. Let me explain on why we created this program and why we have invited you today to give you an oversight on and this is very special having you here as well. So first thing is that this is a very special course which is absolutely designed for teachers and educationalists, and this is no programming, no coding, and very specifically designed only for teachers to give them the awareness of what is AI, what is data science, what's happening in this domain and how it's relevant to them. All these kind of questions is what we are trying to demystify and clarify to them, and how it can be used in education sector and how they could take it to the children and they can teach to the children without the coding per se, because data science is only 10% coding according to me, and the rest is all about understanding data, understanding logics, understanding the algorithms, and understanding the business perspective. So that is what we want to do. So my dear teachers, so what we are going to do today is that we are going to ask a series of questions to Chiranjiv and let him answer these questions, and then we will have our key takeaways from each of those answers as that's the way in which we are going to go about it. So Chiranjiv, if you can maybe just say a few words, then I'll start with my first question as such.
Absolutely. Thank you, Swami, for inviting me. Thank you, Smartail, for the fantastic work that you have been doing. My pranam to all the teachers. I've been through this journey, as in I've completed a PhD as well. Academics has been very fond of my life, right? I've spent my entire education till master's in India and then my PhD outside. Though I've been a student of science and primarily like the area of science, but the entire teaching community, which is making the next future, right, is dependent upon all of you, right? The future entails you to learn, because if you do not adapt, then we as students will not be able to adapt. I think that is the theory that we will try to portray today. The learning journey has to be mutual. Science, as like any science in the world, right? Whether you are trying to invent a bulb, right? Or an apple falls from the tree and you discover gravity. Everything has to be materialized. Science does not do anything from themselves. It is us, the human beings, who actually do it. And more than us, the people who create, which is you, my teachers, right? We'll try to portray on how this science became data and how this data science will help you and empower us to become the next future of the world, right? And my next coming generations, right? So you are the creator of generations, right? From the perspective, and that's what we will talk about today. We are just some catalysts in the game. Some SMEs like us, Smartail organizations, people like Swami Chiranjiv can just be catalyst into the reaction that you would be creating, and that reaction is very important, and that's what would be our focus today, the journey and the life cycle. Yeah, let's start, Swami.
Thanks a lot, Chiranjiv. Thank you. So I'll not waste any more time, right? So the first question to you is, first thing is, what is data science and why is it very important for us to understand data and data science first. Because why I'm asking this question is we want to make this as simple as possible. The reason is there are so much advertisements, there are so many courses, there are so many. If you see any product at the end, it will say powered by AI, or you open up a course and then you say data science for professionals, data science for civil engineers, data science for mechanics. You don't know which place it is not actually playing a role. So before we jump in and dive into the details, maybe at a very very high level, at a very conceptual level, it will be nice to hear from you on what is data science at say as a first question as such. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So science evolved over last 400-500 years. Now we have been doing different forms of sciences, right? Even economics, fundamental sciences like maths, physics, chemistry, biology, right? Everything demands practicality. Now when you go for any practicals, right, and you teachers do develop all of these, right, every day, you devise a process for every student to learn, right? In physics you could use a calibrator to do some things, right? In mathematics there is a process to learn a theorem, right? You cannot just say is equal to mc square and just derivative it, right? You have to write the entire Pythagoras theorem. As like science, data science is also a science. You record the data which processes an information and gives you insight. Insight is nothing but results, basically. Now, it is an entire data science, as like any other science, goes through a life cycle. Okay. You start from an experiment. That experiment might lead to a result, might not lead to a result, right? It will give you some amount of result. You have to continue tweaking it, and finally you will get the result. You cannot skip the processes from the perspective. You would get some external help. Previously, when we were kids, we used to use combinations and get things from the market. Now there would be somebody who will get you things from the market. You don't have to go and buy from the market itself, right? From the perspective, right? Everything is given, and there are organizations and people who would be able to help you, not just by setting a lab. So setting a lab today might take you just few days, right? From the perspective. In data science, it is more frugal, basically. You used to record the data or the experiment in a piece of paper, right? In our good old school days, we used to write it on a register paper, right? From the perspective. What happened in t times 1, t times 2, t times 3, t times 4, that we used to write in paper. Today, we write it in Excel. The data science is about the data. The fundamentals of science has never changed. Mathematics, physics, and traditional sciences, along with comes from the art perspective as well, is the mother of data science and father of data science. Okay, please do understand that, right? The fundamentals and essence comes into picture. The way you make people understand is the art of the science, basically. How you storytell, right? How do you write? Now we develop presentation. We create a PPT and present our findings, right? Even in schools too, our PhDs, right? From the perspective, you have to present what you actually found. The presentation the result might be correct or incorrect. There might be future improvements. We do everything under the sun. That's what is data science. That you collect data, you process the data, you use it for your results, and find an output saying that when you combine hydrogen with oxygen, you get an H2O, right? Which is water as a combination, right? If you separate them, it can create a nuclear reaction. That is what you teach, right? From the perspective. We just record this conversation. That is how data works. If you continuously record the combination of hydrogen and oxygen and then predict after 100 experiments, you will get a bubble of water, That's what is data science. That's what data science is all about. You have to predict. Data science is journey as a life cycle, right? It goes through the fundamentals of life cycle. And in this between, since technology has evolved so much, right, and it has given business results, it started from automation, right? People used to think 40 years back, right, when the Second World War happened, right? Professor Alan Turing came out with his great new invention. He didn't think that he will be inventing something, right, from the perspective, but he created a decipher, right? A mathematical way of deciphering what Germans are writing. We called it artificial intelligence. But he was a professor of mathematics and physics. Please understand that. So you have to understand that you are the base of it and nothing cannot be changed from there. There are some catalysts, as I said, people who come from this world, right? Technology organizations, software organizations, brains like Smartail, right? Who will help you speed the process up, basically, from the perspective. They will provide you with all the tools, right? When you learn them, your process will be much more faster, basically. And that's what we will discuss about a bit more in details on this perspective. That is data science. Data science is a journey.
Thank you so much, Chiranjiv. Thank you. So, this is how I start explaining data science to the teachers, right? Probably I'll add a couple of cents here. Is that for understanding data science, you don't need to understand Python. You don't need to understand any programming languages. Please give a seed to all the students in the class. Let them go and plant the seed and give them all one Excel sheet, or they can write in their own notebook. What time did the sunrise happen? What time did the sunset? What was the cloud cover percentage? What was the rain that day? How much water did you pour? How much humidity was there? How much wind was there? All of these things. Which season was it? Which month was it? All of these things. Measure this for the next 3 months. And if you measure this correctly for the 3 months for all the children and the 40 different children in the class, maybe different say plants. Say somebody might have a chili, somebody might have a tomato. At the end of all this, when you even eyeball the data, I'm not even talking about putting an algorithm down. Even when you eyeball the data, you will be able to predict what is going to be your yield in this particular season when the normal, say, the rain or the normalcy or plus or minus 5% or 10% deviation is there. Normal things will happen. Now you're able to predict, saying, okay, this is how much my yield is going to be. So this is how we teach, or we must think about data science and not think about directly jumping into an algorithm, which is the last step, or the of course it's a very crucial step, but understanding that data is as simple as this is very, very key, is what I always felt. And thank you for resonating that. So the next question I have is that what is AI in very, very simple words? Why is it very important for us to start very early on this? We can't wait for everyone to finish up and give us a finished product, and then at the end we will start using it. Why is it that everyone has to start very early on this?
So as I said, data science, as like any science, is a journey, and very well put up, Swami, right? And to curtail on to your last point, we have algorithms. Algorithm is nothing, teachers. It is the same thing that you are doing every day. It is a crux of probability, right? If you toss a coin, what is going to happen, right? If you toss it once, you get 50% chances of something happening, whether the chili will come out or whether the chili will not come out, right? If you toss it 4 times, the probability goes down to 25%. That is what algorithm is all about in data science, right? The 0.001% of the algorithm developed in the data science commercial world are only 10 to the power of -5 times of the knowledge that we get in the books. And it will take thousands of years to actually for us to convert. And probably not would be required. So algorithm is nothing but the fruit. When you automate this algorithm, the best algorithm, right? As let me continue from what Swami had been speaking. Beautiful example. You have 40 students. You gave a seat to everybody. They went to their home places, right? They might be scattered around the city. Somewhere there might be moisture heavy, there might be not moisture heavy, and so on and so forth, right? They collect that data, they collect their information, and every day they're portraying you the results. After 1 month, you gauge which seed and what is the reaction of that seed, what happened with that seed. Some plant came out, somebody came out with fruit, and so on and so forth, right? From your perspective, when you record this information, and you found out that the eastern part of the city, since it gets more moisture and average rainfall, that's the logic that you need to create. If any new kid is getting a seed who is residing in east of the city with these parameters, right? House is in the east direction, he's putting the vase in his rooftop or maybe veranda, right? And so on and so forth. The right amount of moisture being given, the right amount of rainfall being given. In 25 days, the plant will come out. In 65 days, your leaves will come out. In 75 days, the chili will come out. Basically, that is what we call as prediction. That is called a logic, and that is the algorithm. You can fit any probability algorithm onto it, basically. When you automate this, that is what we call as artificial intelligence. Now, initially we used to think about artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence which will observe information and tell you by reaction. If you give everything, this will happen. If you don't give certain things, this is also going to happen, right? Today, scientists, researchers, and people along with you, right? Please do understand, artificial intelligence can only run with human beings. It cannot happen on itself, okay? It is a dumb machine. Please do understand that. It has got no brains. Whatever you teach, it will learn, basically. Simple, okay? Now, one of the good things what has been happening is the fact that post World War II, right, almost 60 years have passed, right? 60 plus years have passed, and we have been able to understand how important it is to learn in a daily life. So artificial intelligence started learning the basics and nuances from human beings, basically, in your particular domain, in this case itself. So the advantage of this is you would be able to go to that student and tell after 2 weeks that the manicure and the stuff that you're putting, right, will not yield you results after 8 weeks. So stop this experiment. Don't put anything, right? Or change the seed itself. Okay. So you can do that in advance. AI can only help you in doing that. It cannot change the outcome unless the human being wants. That is artificial intelligence. It is the process of learning the science and automating it primarily. Today, we have done work as in different, these people are called data scientists, right? And machine learning engineers, right? Who have come ahead and developed a system which can learn every day, not just by learning whatever has happened in the past. See, teachers, very simply speaking, right? You give a 10 years guidebook to a student, right? And a lot of students do it, right? From the perspective competitive examinations, right? If you take a 20 years entire paper, the probability of you passing 5 years back might have been much different, right? From the perspective, you would have higher chances of passing it. But today, the humans are also smarter, right? So you cannot take a 20 years guidebook and solve 20 years test papers and pass out the NEET examination, right? Or any examination. So you have to look at the pattern and you have to learn the last 5 years, 3 years, and you have to make those changes. So AI is becoming robust, but it is still a process which has to be guided by a human being. What to learn, what to teach, what to keep and what not to keep is to be guided by the human being. That's important. This is artificial intelligence.
Wonderful, wonderful, Chiranjeev. So it cannot be better said than this. Thank you so much. So the next question, the most interesting, probably the most liked topic by you, I believe. So what is data engineering? Right? We're talking about civil engineering, mechanical engineering, that engineering, this engineering. So what is data engineering? And then with it, even I mean, Excel is already a powerful tool, but when it comes to, we are so used to Excel that we are now thinking that Excel is it's just Excel, right? So Excel itself is a powerful tool according to me still, and with properly engineered data, even Excel could be something which is really really powerful and start giving various kind of insights to people. So how it becomes that powerhouse, and why this data engineering is so vital? Can you please throw some light on this?
I'll go back to the father of artificial intelligence, Professor Alan Turing. There was no Excel that time, right? There was no computers, right? From the perspective, he used to write papers and papers every day of what the recording happened in a machine. His job was to decipher a text which has come from Germany, right? A code, Morse code, right? From the perspective, he used to record it every day, keep it in a piece of paper, right? That got replaced today. As in, we have passed that generation. We have come out with Excel, and people talk about different tools. Please understand, science has never been a slave of any tool. Tools don't dominate. Please be agnostic about coding and tooling and so on and so forth. Science does not require any kind of tooling, right? On this perspective, models were developed 100 years back as well, and even today, nothing fundamentally changed. The people who can code the logic, right, can transform into an automated software. That's it. However, the writing has to be on paper in whichever form that you want to do, right? Let's talk about data engineering. So what is engineering? Very simple. In very simple words, you have an input, you have an output, right? You have to record the input and you have to observe what is the output is, right? If you fix a screw, what is going to happen? If you screw it tight, the bolt might come out, or it might break. These are your observations. So just from a nut and bolt, you can find 4 different types of scenarios. Either the bolt will go in, that is good scenario. Either the bolt will ruin the nut, or either the nut will ruin the bolt, right? If you then talk about civil engineering, this is what civil engineering does, right? From the perspective, everything is, as I said in the beginning, everything is about mathematics and physics, though you do not need to learn all of these, basically, right? From the perspective, but fundamentals of this depends. Now this is engineering. You get the data, right? When you see a child's notebook, right, of an experiment, so the kid has just come out of the lab and he's trying to tell, okay, ma'am, you gave me a caliber, right, and I was trying to measure the length of this 4 objects that you have given me, right? You would say, where is your precision? What have you done here, right? So I gave you a nut and a bolt and a scale and 4 different things, right? This is wrong, right? So then this is what you do, scrutinizing the data. Now you do it on a piece of paper, right, in his children's notebook, or you do it in Excel file. It doesn't matter. It is the same thing. This is what we call as impurity detection, outlier detection, missing value treatment. The child might have missed some of the values. Okay, so he was supposed to write second by second, he forgot, or minute by minute. So he forgot the 14th minute and 17th minute of observation. So you have to cut that out, right? That's what you do. And you will give out of 20, if it's written 17, then you will give 17 out of 20. Correct? That's what you will do. We also do the same thing. But we ask the human being, should I delete this 3 observation? That is what machine cannot take this advantage. This is called data engineering. This is the fundamentals of data engineering. There are a lot of data engineering tools which can help you do it automatically. However, you should not be dependent on them, basically, because the machine does not know what you're doing. Basically, what is your objective, right? From the perspective, machine does not understand physics or civics or mathematics, right? Machine only understands that you are giving an input, you deserve an output. It will give you some graphs, right? If you take this kid's 20 minutes of work that has been done and you plot, you would find that there is a graph being created, basically, right? If there are gaps, you fill the gaps. If you don't want it, you will only take whatever is required. You tell the student how to treat it. We do treatment, that this is engineering. The recordings that you did is data. When you mix both of them, becomes data engineering. You create a pipeline. So tomorrow when the kid comes, you exactly tell him, this is how you're going to do. Okay. This is what the steps that you're going to do. We create data engineering pipeline. This is called pipeline. So this is data engineering in short. This is a 70% of what a data scientist does in his entire day, his or her day, basically. It's the same thing that you do. It is just more practical. That's it. That's data engineering.
Brilliant, brilliant, Chiranjeev. Because to share that with an example within the education sector is really cool. So now from now onwards, probably I'll ask some very controversial questions, right? I'll term it as controversy because, in my personal opinion, coding is something which is really overrated, at least for school children as such. That's my opinion as such. Do you agree or do you don't? Please throw your insights on this, because as an engineer myself, and what I feel is that initial days coding was really cool, but I think that more than problem solving skills and more than data skills and all these kind of skills, writing a variable, writing a constant, writing a for loop is now celebrated. Where I feel is a little bit maybe over the notch at this point in time. So as a data scientist, as an engineer, what do you think about it? What is your personal view on this?
Good that you said, Swami. Teachers, I am not an engineer. I am a bachelor's in statistics and a master's in statistics. I wanted to do a PhD in physics, but I also did a computational physics master. So I had a dual master. There is no relationship of mine with engineering. I never touched, and my father could not afford a computer. And the first computer which came to my school, right, was only afforded to some people. And in 1 week, only 5 minutes I used to get. The first thing that I saw when I joined my first job in HSBC in London, is when I first saw a computer. It was an Excel. We used to do credit scoring of people. All of you use credit cards, right? I used to do credit scoring on paper and mathematically calculate on paper and show it to my boss. And the boss used to say, okay, change this parameter. Okay, he looks good. Okay, even if the person has not paid for the last 3 months, his entire history with us looks good. We used to check balance sheets of that person, right? Individually. These are high value customers, right? From the perspective. There was nothing called tool, and there's still nothing called tool. It all is about the logic that you feed in. If anybody is not good in logic, right, which is called structures, we call it data structures, physics, linear algebra, statistics, basics of economics, right? These makes what you can become a data scientist. That is point number one. As a consumer of science, I don't need to learn anything. I need to learn the logic. As I said, probability is the mother of everything, right? From the perspective. If I don't even know probability, I'll just be a coder or a programmer. That coder or programmer without brains will be replaced by AI one day. Because that does not require any brains. There is a standard template which is already there, right? We call it loops, right? You keep on doing one experiment time by time, we call it loop, right? From the perspective. Anybody can replace that if you don't have brains, from the perspective. I don't want to comment on the commercialization of data science, right? I would not like to demean what has been happening, but you being the stakeholder of the society, my teachers, your job and responsibility is to teach the kids and the students who will pass out from your schools and colleges, right? From the perspective, because they would be entering into the market, right? Of their nature. There would be continuous commercialization. But please do understand, and we both are talking the same lines. Swami is an engineer. I'm not even an engineer. I'm a pure fundamental science student. We both are talking on the same language, that for doing science, no tool is required. It's your brains which is important. You need to understand the logic. The test that I take for my students, I'm very sad to say, my beloved teachers, we ask mm, our the people who come for interview to write Fibonacci series. They're not able to write a Fibonacci series. They're not able to write a prime number. How to write a prime number versus odd number versus even number. That is the state of the society. I cannot change anything. You are the people who can change, but it depends upon who will learn, who will not learn, right? From the perspective, forget about the commercialization part. This is the story. Yes, that is why there is a skill gap in India, because of that perspective. I'll stop my conversation there, right? It is you who can change. That's where, but for you to change, first you have to adopt. That's important, right? Across the world, teachers are adopting the new way of making it happen, because if you don't experiment and you tell the students that I learned it without any knowledge, the student will not believe me. Basically, in our cultural life, Swami, me, right, we started our career and we have come to this stage, and today also we sit down with the students, or we call it interns or freshers, whatever that we call them, right? We sit down with them and make them understand the basics, right? From the perspective, because they never learned it in their schools or colleges, right? From the perspective, this is where you have to adopt it, and it is very easy to adopt. When you have to commercialize things, one thing my parents always say, right? If you cannot convince, you should always confuse, right? So it is the chaos and the confusion which is always created to demean you, saying that you are the suppressed part of the society. You cannot learn it. You break the shackles. If you break the shackles, all the students will do that. I can guarantee. I'll stop there.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. You still thread the diplomatic path. Maybe I mean, as a parent myself, I am a very strong advocator of coding is not required for children until they even come to college, because I think that's a skill that can be learned very fast, and you don't need it so early. What is more essential at a school level is the problem solving skills. That's what I say, right?
Yes.
And then first thing is identification problem, appreciating and identifying the problem. First identifying the problem, and then how to appreciate a problem, then how do you break down the solution, and then what are the steps that you're going to take. And it's okay to fail, right? We might go on a path to find a solution. It's okay if we don't find a solution, but as long as we know what is the journey to take when a problem is thrown to us, that is very, very key, because that is what, as Chiranjiv also touched upon it, this is a big challenge that we face in the industry. Because when I am getting an intern or an engineer, and then I give them a problem saying, hey, this is a problem that you got to solve. Can you go and think about it and come back to me with an approach, right? Sadly, 70% of them are not able to do it, and the remaining 30% are able to only do it half-baked. Where I feel that even for a fresher, even for an intern, you should maybe it's not the best solution, but you should at least be able to come up with the solution as such. So that's very, very key. Wonderfully said. I'll throw
and to add to that, Swami, most of the people have forgotten the habit of reading itself, right? They do not have the habit of reading and writing. I think that is what with logic has to be done, basically. I think you are very correct. Yeah.
True. Thank you. No, and one more thing. I mean, as a part of this course, this is what we're gonna give to teachers at the end, is that we're gonna give them maybe around 10 or 15 exercises that they can run in the school. For instance, the measurement of the data is one part, where the growth of a plant, and then they come up with the predictive analytics data without coding, right? You need absolutely no code there. You just need to collect the data, and then you look at the data, and then you eyeball and you let me know in your school what was the case. And we will allow them to record a video like this. I will take them on an interview, let them present the data, we will go over, and then we will share it with the multitudes of schools that we work with, so that they can repeat the exercise with their children, because it's experiencing is everything. The other thing that we were thinking is that especially for science grads, what can we do, what can you do to reduce the electricity bill of your school? So that's another exercise that we want to give. So like this, we want to give more and more exercises. So these are problems. So this could be solved by 10 students together. Let them go and figure out, and let them break their head and come back and say, okay, if we do A, B, C, D, E, we might be able to reduce the electricity bill of our school by 25%. If they're able to come back with that, that is more important as a society, as for corporates, or for startups like us, or for data scientists like Chiranjiv. All of us are expecting people who can actually solve problems, right? Doesn't matter if they have A skill, B skill, C skill, but if they can solve problem, learn and grow and solve problem, that is more and more important to us. So thank you.
Adding to this is my suggestion. The experiment part will be done. This is my suggestion. Please take it or
please do it. Please go ahead.
The experiment part will be done by a science student. The operational part will be done by an economics student.
True.
Right? Or a commerce student, because you cannot change things overnight, right? What is the school going to gain, right? If you are trying to reduce an electricity bill, what are the different impacts which are going to happen? That should be from a commerce student. The presentation, right, should be developed by an art student.
Right? I'll add one more, right? The impact of this should be handled by the humanities student. How the school is going to perceive this data, how are we going to convince the management, convince the teachers, or convince the staff to use say less power, or are we going to implement solar panels, maintainability. That's just one example where we are looking at a year, probably at least for 3 to 4 months you can work on that, and then you can teach so many different subjects and so many different concepts in that when you solve that one single problem. So this is something really brilliant. I think from time to time, Chiranjeev, maybe we should also devise these special activities that teachers can run in schools. We can create like a template, we can case study or a template, we can give it to them and say, okay, this is how you do it, please go ahead and do it, and if they need any help, we can always come there and help. And that way I think we will create more problem solvers for ourselves in a very selfish motive, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
We are the consumers of what you create, my teachers. Yes. Right? So if you create the best, we'll get the best. That is how it works. That is why we want to catalyze this, and we are greedy about getting the best. You will mitigate the skill gap talent of India because kids have stopped thinking. That's important.
So probably the last two questions from my end. I'll first place this very in a bulleted way. What are the top 3 places where AI is going to be playing a very important role in the education sector as such? What top 3 that comes to your mind?
As I said, right, as in generally AI has been termed as automation or digital automation, basically, right? So the way of currently the management of the tasks, that is where AI systems will come into picture, right? As I said, right, it needs a lot of learning to become an AI system, a system to become an intelligence one, right, to be precise. That is why it is called artificial intelligence, right? From the perspective, it cannot be learning on itself, basically, right? I think that is where the task management operations will come into picture. Second is the information gathering on a source perspective will come into picture. So the information is becoming very vast. Today you are teaching from the notebook. Of course, it has to be guided, but now even students are going to get into online, offline media, and they're getting a lot of information, right? So it is more audio visual and attractive, basically, right? For the students to have. Please do understand, students also need a lot of engagement, right? From the perspective, they want an ease of learning, right? From the perspective, right? Though they have been, we also have been looking for shortcuts in our school life, right? Today you have a lot of information. However, I don't know as a student what is better, right? From the perspective. So that is the part we call in AI called recommendation systems, right? Recommendation systems for learning. It will come into evolution. Third is, which is one of the biggest hot topics of 2021, is called metaverse. Metaverse in education, because it is a fundamental, right? If an employee of a company can interact with fellow employees in a virtual world, if Facebook can create a virtual world for all its users, right? People can go on for dating, they can go for parties, they can go for clubs in a virtual world. In a school also, right? They can go ahead and do this interaction, right? Sitting any part of the world from the perspective. Metaverse is going to impact this entire education system itself, right? From the perspective. Okay, so I am not saying that tomorrow you will have an avatar, right? This is not Steven Spielberg. That's only a dream, right? From the perspective. It is said to be doing that, but it cannot be happening, right? Do we have a Jurassic Park in the world? We don't have, right? Dinosaurs are still extinct. It is already in the textbooks, right? But there is a theory that there will be some eggs and which will pop out to be dinosaurs, right? From the perspective. So AI has different three layers. I think automation is something that already has been done, right? There will be continuous improvement which will be happening, and none of them can impact if the human beings cannot cooperate, because human beings are million times more intelligent than a machine. These are the three primary impactful areas that I can foresee in doing that, helping the human beings to develop something in the world of education and teaching.
Thank you so much, Chiranjeev. Thank you. So, yeah, so we don't want dinosaurs back, at least in the near future. But metaverse, very interesting. Call me old school. I am not a big fan of it already, but nevertheless, the engagement that it can actually bring in with, say, for instance, for our teachers. So, using metaverse, can we allow the teachers who teach biology in India to interact with the teachers who teach biology in, say, Sweden or in Japan or in US or in different places where they are able to collaborate and they are able to come up with new methodologies? They are able to start thinking more about how well can we impart this knowledge to the kids. And that's where, again, you talked about automation, and I can't miss out on talking about deep grade, right? Deep grade is essentially that intelligent automation that actually does a lot of work for the teachers, and then it gives back the time that is actually required so that they can get into this metaverse or they can get into these places and start upskilling every single day. So that's, I think that in essence is very, very key. We are now moving towards, from process, we are moving towards more towards quality, and then ensuring that we are upskilling every single day, not only in education but in every single domain too. So really brilliant, nicely put. Thank you so much. The last question for the day is AI a threat for the teachers? Will it replace them or enable them?
There are multiple theories which are going around in this perspective. But as I started saying, and Swami has also been saying, teachers, there will be some industries which will be impacted partially. Education will not. It's a straight no from me. There are multiple blogs from McKinsey to everybody who has been writing about it. Why? There has to be theory about everything. The theory of everything that we say, right? Learning is not linear process. Learning is never linear, basically, right? You do not teach the same chapter in the same way to every class every day. Think about this perspective. AI is supposed to do the same thing every day. It is an interaction between two human beings. One is elder and one is smaller, right? From the perspective. That is how education works. It is learning impartment, right? Swami is my teacher. I am a student, right? In this perspective, he has to have differentiators of 10 different Chiranjeevs, right? On this perspective. What human being wants is engagement, right? And that's where teachers come into picture. And that's what students also demand. I want the time from my teacher. But the problem is the amount of student in the class does not allow me to interact with every individual in the 42 or 50 class, right? From the perspective, even with a 20 people class, right? From the perspective, AI is going to impact something which is not important, right? Or it is repeatable. If AI can only do things which are repeatable, learning impartment cannot be done. That is where I would request all of you to go ahead and adopt it, right? From the perspective, because if you adopt AI and utilize what you do not require to be done by an AI system partially, it will give you time to talk to 5 more students, and it will benefit the operations of the learning of your entire class. Your productivity, the knowledge level of the students will go more up, because the student have so much of information that they are going haywire, right? They do not have the habit of asking. You would get more engagement time with the students. That's what the society will benefit. This is something AI cannot do by never. There are multiple other theories as in which can come into picture, as in AI system needs a continuous learning. It can not adapt to situations, right? If you program an automatic car to kill the cat versus a human being, it will always kill the cat, basically. Even if you're going at 5 kilometers per hour or 50 kilometers per hour. That is how AI systems work, right? From the perspective. You need to teach in different layers. At 5 kilometers per hour or 50 kilometers per hour, how would you going to behave? Reactions, situations. AI cannot do that until unless it is programmed by somebody, basically. So in my straight answer, it is no, right? Human beings are much, much, much more powerful, right? From the perspective. And in this education field, the demand from the students, right? That's what I hear from, and I'm sure Swami will also touch base on that, right? They wanted to get time from their teachers, right? From the perspective, they want an early engagement just by talking, right? From the perspective, because information is scattered everywhere, right? Some edutech platform will teach them automatic metaverse based learning, right? And so on and so forth. Even if you can touch Pythagoras theorem with your own hands, right? In digital VR and AR, the Pythagoras theorem remains the same, right? The apple is going to fall, which will give in the gravity. But if you don't understand what is E and what is M and what is C, you will never be able to realize. You will just automatically. That is where I would take a stand from that perspective. Human beings are much more important. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiranjeev. Very, very well put. So we are at the end of all the questions. I'm done with all the questions. So we're at the end of the show. Teachers, thank you again for a good listen. And my heartfelt gratitude to Chiranjeev, because the moment I asked him, Chiranjeev, I'm doing this course and I need your help. And the first answer that he had was, Swami, I am not a teacher. So how are you asking me? Because I don't know how to go and teach the teachers, because I feel I'm going to feel nervous about it. This was his answer back to me. Then I had to convince him, saying, no, this is not something where we are asking I'm asking you to take a lesson to them or anything like that. This is more like the general opinion of probably the eminent personalities in the domain. That's what Smartail wanted to bring in. And then we wanted to bring in Chiranjeev. And then because Chiranjeev had a very good talk, he spoke a lot about AI, data science in one of our events in Bangalore. And from that, I wanted this to go to a larger audience, because we only had about 150 people there. And then we wanted this message to go to a larger audience, because I'm being very selfish, being an Indian startup, and we are taking leaps and bounds in terms of how many startups from India are working on AI, and I'm also very glad to announce that very recently, Smartail has been picked up as one of the startups by the Telangana AI Mission. So the Telangana State AI Mission, they have a mission where they are nurturing about 80 odd startups from all across the country, not just in Telangana. We are not even in Telangana for that matter. And they've taken up the mission to go and identify these startups and evaluate them and then nurture them and then form a cohort and do a lot of things. So which means AI is being given so much of importance by not only one state government but the whole country as well. India AI is doing a fantastic job. Then you have in Tamil Nadu you have the TNE governance agency which is doing a fantastic job. In Karnataka you have there is a AI mission again which is doing a fantastic job. If you go to Delhi government is giving a lot of emphasis on AI, imparting AI in education as well. So a lot of things are moving ahead with AI, and very important that all of us as a society, not just the startups, not just the corporates, we start consuming this and then we start improving this so that we become the data powerhouse or the AI powerhouse of the world, because in other words, data is the next oil. That's what everyone says. Data is the next oil. Anybody who has rich amount of data is going to be as rich a country or as developed a country as the how oil had been for the past 150 years. And very interestingly, we have the producers of data as well. So we have about 1.3 billion people who produce huge amount of data every single day. And this is going to add a lot of value if we use this data properly and then ethically. Ethics in AI is another total different topic. Maybe we will do a separate interview on that, Chiranjeev. We will do a talk like this, bring in some more panelists as well, and we will discuss about ethics in AI is again very interesting topic. But the core crux is, until we need to have all the three, right? We need to have people who can work on tech, who can do the tech, who can bring products, bring ideas, and all those things. Then we need the people who can actually use it, who can constantly give feedback, who can constantly improve on it. Then you have the final leg of people who get benefited from it, right? How to see this data, how to adjust the next steps of progress. All of these things is required. So all the three steps are really key, and the first two steps more than anything else. If the first two steps doesn't happen, the last step will definitely not happen again. So it's a sequential process, and really brilliant that we have about 800 teachers who have registered for this course. And I'm really thankful to the interest that is actually shown by the teachers, because it's again about 10 hours or 20 hours of course this is going to be, where we're going to have different videos like this keep coming, and it will keep popping up. And the interest is what has been thrilling us, and we are working very hard to ensure that quality content is again coming back to you, and it's not just another course where you just go and sign up and you get a certificate and move on. So we're going to keep tests, we're going to keep exams, we're going to keep give you exercises. All of that is going to happen. It's not to validate that whether you pass, then only I'll give you a certificate. No, it's not like that. It is to ensure that the message is taken very strong to everyone, and the concepts are understood. That's the whole intention over here. So thank you again, Chiranjeev. Thank you for the time that you have spent with us today. Really a pleasure. I look forward to having you in another interview like this very soon, maybe on a little different topic. And I'll make this video also available in YouTube because I think it's very common as well, and I think a lot of people can actually benefit from this.
Absolutely. So, just to end my point, I think Smartail and the organization will be guiding you through and creating this entire program. It is a very beneficial program. But take this AI, whatever that everybody is saying, and you will be learning as like this is how I foreseed it, right? First time when I started in this journey, it's like your first mixer grinder that you got for your green chutney, right? You never knew how to do it. There was a manual, somebody told you to do things, and believe me, either your green chutney or your red chutney or your dosa batter, right? There is a process for everything, right? You wanted to use it because you saw somebody making brilliant idlis and chutneys and green chutneys with your mooli parathas, right? From the perspective, in northern part of India, mooli parathas are more famous as compared to idli and the red chutney batter. AI is the same thing, right? You need to make the grinder work. The one time that you do it, the next time it will be much easier for you. That's the first time that you take the baby step. I think that is what the analogy will be. And believe me, it is much more easier than your washing machine or your mixer grinder. It is much easier than that. Thank you so
Very
much.
well put. Very well put, Chiranjeev. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. I'll see you in the next video as such. Thank you.
Good day.
Good day.